You can see the teams giving each other a couple of fist bumps. You know what that means. It's time for us to jump into match number 1 of IEM Melbourne 2025. The Australian public have been waiting a long time for this event, so hopefully you guys online have been as well, and hopefully we'll get some good games to kick things off, of course, as we do start it off with FaZe and Pain, and it will be FaZe to start on the T side here of Anubis.
We'll see if the pistol can have any good weight on it for Pain on this CT side as well, as they are potentially going to have an early duel in mid.
Yeah. Well, overall, start has been as expected. A Liege with a nice couple of entries. Brokey gets one, but then, of course, there's a nice little trade back as the contest comes through over bridge and from E-Box, and it is actually going to be Pain that will win the round, and they're already pretty pumped up about it, as you can see. Again, expectations low for this team, so getting off to any kind of positive start is always going to be fun.
Yeah, a lot of quick kills to come through there. Rick's able to achieve one as well, so you got to be pretty happy with that one. Did hear earlier in the interview as well with NQZ that, you know, Demo coming into this roster has more vocals than previously, so I'm kind of expecting them to all just be contributing more in the comms and really trying to do it together as a team. You know, a lot more discussion can come on through, for example.
Yeah, most definitely. So FaZe just going to set themselves up outside of B main for a second here. And then we'll get to see what the decision ends up being from them. It does look to be, you know, a bit more of a default setup from them, though very much the expectation that we might get somewhat of an execute out on this site. There's going to be some util getting tossed over. Carrigan and Rain starting to work their way in through E-Box as well. Now that util's getting tossed on in. Smoke coming through for Temple and for CT, and well, it's just going to be a B-pop, really. That's all that we have to say about this one, and so far, so good on the hold for Pain. Nothing really of note occurring there, just the one entry from Rain, but aside from that, it looks to be a pretty easy pickup from Pain, and 2-0 at the start, so no complaints at all.
No, not really for as far as Pain is concerned. You've got to remember that that is also a bit of a force-up from FaZe in that scenario too, so not able to come away with really anything. They will take a knee in the early beginning stages of this map, and when I think about FaZe and I wait for the sort of next gun round or the first gun round that's going to come up, you know, that's when we'll maybe see some more normalcy return to this one, but an opportunity for Pain nonetheless to start out with a good lead on their own map pick.
Well, pretty standard stuff on this anti-eco for Pain, or at least that's the attempt, really. To have one kill already coming through from Rain with the Deagle. Everyone has invested in one for FaZe, so there will be some degree of a fear factor for Pain in this round. Davideus down relatively low. And looks like FaZe are just going to decide to group their way up. I mean, this is going to have to be a contact play. They have absolutely no util at all. But with only one player on this bomb site, that being Demo, maybe they can knock him over and find themselves a plant, get something underway on this T side. Or perhaps not. A couple of nice kills in there from Demo. He'll actually pick up all 4. Very well done on the anti-eco. And that's exactly how you'd want things to start if you're Pain. You get the pistol round on the CT side. You beat out the anti-force and the anti-eco without losing too many guns, and you get yourself a 3-0 lead on the CT side of Anubis. I mean, that's a great start.
Yeah, and that's going to be some confidence kills to come through from Demo there as well, especially with the MP9 to farm up a whole bunch of cash. You can start to look to set yourselves up for an AWP a little bit later as well. You set yourselves up quite nicely going into this round as well, you know, remaining with all of the utility, 4 rifles. The onus in this one for FaZe to see what their calling's going to look like, what their mid-rounding is going to look like. Nothing immediately out the gates.
Yeah, default setup very much so. The spread here from FaZe to start this one off, and that's typically what you're going to be coming to expect from a round like this one. First gun round of the half. You just want to get a bit of an understanding of what your opponents are going to be up to. Are they doing anything a little bit silly here or there? Are they doing anything a bit weird? But at this stage, both teams really just looking to try to feel each other out. There's something a little bit amok here for Pain, as they've got 3 players over towards A, so putting a bit of a priority on holding on to A main, which is not necessarily always standard. It really depends on what team you are, how you want to sort of play that CT side, but definitely in the case of Pain, they've elected to sort of weaken their mid-hold to strengthen their A-hold. So perhaps anticipating something early on from FaZe over there, but as they swing their way back into middle to retake that space, they are just kind of booking FaZe, honestly. I mean, at the moment in the server, it looks like Pain is the team that we should have said were the favorites, and FaZe were the ones coming in with a stand-in and a new player, but it's not the case. I mean, this is a role reversal for sure, but I'm very impressed by what we're seeing from Pain so far on this CT side.
I'll see if Rain can get something back with Frozen here, though looking to be looked after. And now it's just for Frozen, who would need all 5 kills in this round. But with 15 seconds to go, that's just unachievable. Well done for Pain.
Yeah, not going to happen, is it? Best case scenario, he's going to hold on to this AK. They're not going to have enough money next round to really put a whole lot together. So a hero AK will potentially give them something to work with. You know, you maybe invest in a little bit of pistol armor or some util here and there and try to set Frozen up for a take somewhere. It's kind of hard to see exactly what the money's at right now on our screen. It looks, I think, okay on stream, but looks like they are going to be force buying into this one with the pistol armor. And again, like I said, a little bit of a smattering of util coming across here for FaZe. Just a couple of HEs and a couple of smokes, so no flashes to set Frozen up anywhere or anything like that. It's quite intriguing what this setup will end up looking like. Double nade right onto the head of NQZ is not a bad start.
Yeah, but are they going to be able to finish him off and potentially gain any sort of advantage, or maybe more importantly, pilfer that weapon over as well to set themselves up for something? We didn't really see Rain find too much lurking towards the A side in the last round. Wasn't able to get a kill or anything, but maybe this time it's going to turn a little bit later because FaZe actually has some territory pushing through the doors. Now they've got options.
Yeah, most definitely. And it might be a pivot back over toward B. If Snow goes down here, that's going to be really bad news, and it's very difficult in that circumstance to really do anything beyond even get one, which he's not able to do. That leaves NQZ, who is low, to try to solo anchor B. He'll hold down that spray, anticipating an extra push, and won't quite get it. So ultimately, FaZe picked their battles really nicely in this round and go straight into B, get that plant down, and leave Demo alone to try to clutch now for Pain, which again, is wishful thinking in the 1v4. So this dream start for Pain somewhat ends around earlier than it ought to have. They could have been up to 5-0 in this CT side.
If only he knew how low a couple of these FaZe members were, how tantalizing it might have been if you had something like an incendiary or a HE as well to potentially polish one of them off and start to mount something, but you'll just have to call this one for what it is. FaZe hitting some sharp shots. Rain with the deagle, finding what he needed as well. And that was, you know, the hero rifle taken from the last round, that AK that's kind of found nothing, really, right? A little bit of damage maybe for sure, but the pistols have certainly done good lion's share amount of work, and the trade game as well accounted for. So FaZe on the board, an AWP out for Brokey and an AWP out for NQZ as well. Was kind of waiting to see when that would get brought out for Pain, and how they're going to opt to even put him up on a powerful line here too, right? What is Rick's going to be able to do to potentially set him up and go for these little pop plays? Good start though.
Good start for Brokey. Rick's going to go down early on in the piece. I mean, frankly, haven't really noticed Rick so far, which is probably a good sign. He's 3-3, but in this round getting picked off early, and Brokey is going to be able to line himself up another one as NQZ also goes down on that entry for FaZe. That B site instantly lost, and that'll be the round lost as well.
Yeah, only a single point of damage towards Rain so far. See, maybe if there's some extra little damage that Demo and Davideus are going to be able to find for the remainder of this round, but you'd have to say they got to put a bit of a priority on taking this weaponry into the next round. Economy on this CT side, you've got to start to balance it out too when you consider that reset territory. And FaZe recognize this as well, looking for a little bit of a hunt.
Yeah, I mean, look, FaZe at this point actually kind of have to do a lot of work in this half, just because they lost the pistol and that sort of opening gun round. The 4 rounds already given over to Pain is almost like you're kind of hitting that par score for Anubis CT side nearly. If they could get 1 more, if they could get 2 more, they're doing really well in that half, particularly given the circumstances surrounding Pain coming into Melbourne. So it's well and good for FaZe to like win that previous round and then win this round and make them both actually look quite clean. But the fact of the matter is that they kind of have to have a almost perfect half from here on out. So they do need to be kind of pushing those issues. They do need to be putting as much pressure onto the Pain economy as they can and kind of making life as easy as possible, which, again, to sort of expect perfection over 8 rounds in a row isn't necessarily always going to happen.
For sure. But as for Pain, that they do have another buy here. Early damage done again on towards some utility marks. With this forward angle, the AWP's trying to see who can gain some advantage, and this time it's actually going to be NQZ instead of Brokey, who opened things up in the last one.
Relige going to join the rest of the forces over toward B here. And once again, just sort of see if they can bust their way into B. It's been fairly successful so far. Issue is, they don't really have a whole lot of util to get in. They've got one smoke, so it's going to actually probably just have to end up being a contact play, which works out perfectly. Pain falling asleep at the wheel on the B bomb site. Snow and then Ricks getting their heads banged off. And once again, that's the B site taken. You almost at this point have to start thinking, well, Pain are going to need to put some more forces over toward B, because if that's where FaZe are going to go consistently and that's where they're going to have success consistently, you can't be letting them win around like that.
Yeah, and I mean, around such as this, where you go in for a save in the previous, carrying over the weaponry and a little utility, right? You're not putting any more investment in towards that, and you kind of just run out before the hit even happens on towards that B site. It makes it a little bit difficult to even consider going for a bit of a retake. So eventually for Pain, you got to, try and gain advantages elsewhere around the map, as you're saying there. The B site a bit weaker at the moment, but also, I like to see where Pain do opt to chop and change where that AWP is going to be played and how NQZ is going to be playing, right? He's not always going to be this player that sits around the B site with that gun. Carrying over,
well,
of course,
unfortunately,
some kits and stuff, but this round is not going to be too much, right? In terms of investment.
Yeah.
A bit of a timeout to have some discussions though.
Yeah, look, I mean, there might be a little bit put in because of the fact that they were able to save those 3 guns. They're just having a bit of a chat about what are we going to do in this round. It started so well for Pain, they were looking sharp in the server. They were winning some nice rounds, obviously getting the pistol round under their belt and kind of getting the ball rolling on the CT side is always going to be nice, but if these are how the gun rounds are going to consistently play out, it is kind of looking a little bit too easy at the moment for FaZe on these, first 3 rounds that they picked up, right? Like, they're just kind of like taking that B site without any concern at all. They're not really losing any players on the way in. Even the last round, like, extremely egregious, 4v5, and you get 2 entries on B, and that's the round over and done with. So just some upgraded pistols to buy behind the saved weapons in this round. But Pain, I mean, they need to get something done here. NQC maybe need to try to get aggressive with that AWP. You could see they were pushing into A main there with Demo to see if he could maybe impact the round early on in the piece. But FaZe not trying to go too quickly anywhere. It's going to be a pop flash into main and a little bit of util to follow suit to take that space for FaZe. And it seems their approach this time will be onto the other side of the map, not over toward B, which is pretty nice conditioning because actually they've pulled an extra rotator over to B. There's now 3 players on B, no one in mid, and 2 on A, as opposed to sort of this 2-1-2 or the 2-3 that we had earlier on. So this is, again, the more weak bomb site that FaZe are going to be heading into, and, well, it hasn't worked out too well for them. Counter flashes look pretty good there. NQZ getting himself a double, and Brokey only now finding himself the trade. This has not worked out for FaZe. The A hold remains strong, even if B is struggling.
And now as Brokey, what are you going to be able to do to bring something back here? 40 seconds, there's time, you've got the bomb, bit of util. But nothing on the back of that, unfortunately. So that is a pretty good hold from Pain at the A site. The AWP as well, right? Repositioning when mollied out, just managing to scurry away and then get still on the great line where NQZ is happy to be supported by the team. Feels like FaZe, are kind of doing the right things in their conditioning, as you say. They've hit B a couple of times, forced Pain to rethink how things might be looking, stack the numbers elsewhere, but still having enough pieces to kind of get options for the rounds. FaZe will start
this
to
is
fall
sort of-
back, though. The lead's already gone.
Yeah, not great. This is what I was kind of touching on as well at the start there. It's like you've got 4 rounds already as Pain, so you really only need to get like 1 or 2 more here. And that is the 1 round, right? Like they're up to 5, 5 and 3, still looking pretty good. Even if FaZe are trading 3 for 1 from that initial opener, it's going to end up being a 6-6 half, which is quite solid actually for the CT side of Anubis. And Pain working hard to make this a bit more of a difficult game for FaZe. Doesn't matter how good the individual rounds that FaZe win look. If they're not going to win all of them, well, they're still going to have to put in the hard yards in the second half. And NQC poised on a pretty nice line to deal with the push that looks to be coming from FaZe.
But will it happen? Caught with Util out as Brokey, and Rain still not able to make his way out through main. He's been held off by these smokes time and time again. So you feel like Pain a good grasp on where this round is going to end.
Most definitely. NQZ missing that shot. Tavadeus coming around the back here. That'll probably be the killing blow for FaZe in this round. If they might have had a timing there out of A main, there might have been a chance, but not looking too likely now with Frozen going 1 for 1 there. I mean, I guess that's good in and of itself for him, but it's definitely not good enough to win this round. And Pain are now up to 6, and man, FaZe are looking really rocky on the T side of Anubis right now. This is a massive discrepancy from where it should be. It's weird because 3 rounds in a row, they look fantastic. They look phenomenal just going towards B, hitting that site, taking it with ease. Then we see a round toward A, that doesn't work. Then we see a round toward middle, also doesn't work. So what's the conversation right now for FaZe? Is it just, look, we have to keep going B because that's what's been working, but they are kind of getting blasted in this game so far. I mean, a 6 and 3 half is definitely nothing to be sniffed at for Pain, with the opportunity to even improve on that.
Yeah, I mean, you've got a great recipe at the moment with Davideus finding some great flanking timing. You've got NQZ hitting his shots. You've got Demo getting multi-frags as well, right? It's like in a scenario where you have a stand-in and your IGL is gone, it isn't really phasing Pain at the moment. Rix is not being a weak soldier by any means. He's even still getting, you know, some damage out here and there, finding some good assistance with the util. So on the back of that timeout for FaZe, have they kind of seen enough so far on this first half to recognize what they need to do to at least try and tie things up at the half?
I think that's easier said than done for sure. It's not really up to FaZe at this point, is it? Pain have done a good job of building their money back up as well, so they're in a pretty comfortable position. There's no real pressure on Pain, remember. And if there's no pressure on them in terms of expectations at this event, and also no pressure in the server, that's where this actually can start to come together for Pain. The nade into the smoke, it's going to reveal Carrigan. Ends up just being a 1 for 1, which is maybe not as good as Pain would have liked. Rain still fighting for that space at E-box. Brokey now going to set himself up on that bridge line as well. FaZe are just waiting for a pick in this round, and they're not getting it. Not in the way that they want to.
And now in the middle of this round as well, you start to see FaZe pivot a little bit more towards this B site. The bomb eventually may make its way over there if they feel like it, but you've got a majority of Pain's force still here with crossfires available too. How are you sniffing them out? You've got a couple of smokes, you've got a couple of flashes, but you've got, you know, no HEs, no mollies to really push them, and with 30 seconds to go, I mean, there's an opportunity for Pain to find 7.
It's looking a little bit slimmer though, as that first player goes down on B, and then Davideus will fall as well. Brokey just able to set himself up on the line, and that again is a nice B take for FaZe. So as far as I can see so far, they have a 100% win rate when they are going B with force, and anywhere else is a 0% win rate. At least on the gun rounds. Obviously the pistol round notwithstanding. But since, you know, those gun rounds have started to come through, FaZe have actually looked really good on these B takes, and 2 rounds left in the half, I almost just want to see them keep going B.
Potentially so. I mean, Rain's not really been able to find anything over through A main, right? It's just an exchanging of utility, and more often than not, he hasn't even been taking the space after he's HEing and Molotoving. So it almost feels like those sort of things, Pain aren't biting. You know, they're not going to reclaim any of that territory either. They're just happy enough to rotate between watching the A side itself, watching mid, reinforcing B on the rotates where required. But I definitely agree with you. You know, for FaZe, if they're able to at least get into this B side and they're not seeing any crossfires work a treat for Pain, don't necessarily need to change it. right? The conditioning with 2 more rounds to go in this half, it's not the worst thing to try and just do it again.
Yeah, but maybe it's time for something a little bit different out from Pain, right? They've been still kind of playing a very standard style. You know, they've obviously varied their holds, but maybe we could see some regression out somewhere on one side of the map, just try to take a bit of space, unsettle FaZe early on in the round, prevent them from playing this default and then ending on B. Good damage done to Elige through that mid smoke. But once again, pretty standard fare. 3-1-1 split. That's really standard.
Yeah.
And FaZe, again, default setup into what looks to be a B take. Carrigan taking space in E-box here. This should be very expected. It's feeling a little bit telegraphed in a sense from FaZe, but maybe they don't mind that. They don't hit their shots though, and that'll be a problem. 3 duels won by Pain on the B bomb side, and that will be a huge difference maker as they are certainly closing in on their 7th round now.
Rix has just machoed himself in towards that duel and won that one. That's kind of handsome to come out there. And for Rain and Elige, I mean, you saw Elige get damaged up through some smoke spam earlier on, and Rain again just not able to find anything in through A main. 40 seconds to go. And with that kill going Snow's way, I mean, it feels like the round may be done unless Elige just comes out with something miraculous.
Not impossible for a player like Elige, but a nice shot in from Rix. Beaten by a coach. Now that one, bullet straight to the head from the AWP. Rix is 5-5. He's definitely upholding his end of the bargain. Like, mate, he doesn't need to come into the server and do anything special. As long as he can go 1 for 1, you know, hit 75 to 80 ADR, throw a couple of flashes, throw a couple of pieces of util on a decent timing, and just exist, that is totally fine for Pain. Especially when you got Davideus going 12-3, and you got NQZ as well, having a decent time with the AWP in hand. Demo's doing well. I mean, this is the ideal scenario for Pain, quite frankly, and we'll find out whether or not they can close out an 8th round here. If they could get an 8-4 half on the CT side of Anubis, I might even say they can win the map.
Maybe. But this is FaZe.
That's not how you're going to get 8.
No.
Well, running their way on into that B bomb side and trading down nicely is FaZe. Frozen and Rain to try to clutch it out against Demo. And to be fair, he is 8-1, so let's not count them out of this conversation just yet. He's got a bit of space. He's got some util, a molly for B main, but he'll be spotted in the side. Oh my god, the flick. And Frozen goes down. Now Demo expecting that last player out by main, which he will be proven correct in that assumption, though the peak has to still come through from Rain. He knows he's now on the left side, trying desperately to draw it out. Flash around the corner, and doesn't look like Demo's going to be winning it now. He'll chase Rain down, but does he have time for the defuse? I don't think so. He's going to sit it anyway. And oh, he's just got it 8-4. Unbelievable. The first half, a super solid one from Pain, and they'll get themselves a massive half to kick things off here at IEM Melbourne.
To stay, it was you that put me in. Promised me that we'd be okay. All of your lies I was believing. You were there most of the time, but that was never good enough for me. Had me going out of my mind, had me going round like crazy. You got me like crazy, like you were always right.
Welcome back on into the second half. Scoreline right now 8-4 for Pain, and that was done on the CT side of Anubis, by the way. CT side of map, apparently. That's going to be a bit of a job for FaZe to get over the line. I mean, the odds haven't shifted too much, but frankly speaking, this is looking like it should at least be Pain to win map 1 from here. All signs pointing towards a victory for the Brazilian squad, but let's find out whether or not that will be the case as they decide to take the scenic route to B.
Yeah, I mean, they took a trip to Australia. You may as well take another trip in the server itself, right?
Yeah, seems that way. And Brokey will be the first one to really take any kind of contact as he just tries to tap away. You got Rain with that USP out by main as well, and he's hit himself a nice headshot, but it will not be enough to stop Pain from filtering their way onto the site. They get a safe plant for Temple. They've got plat control. Everyone's just trying to tuck, but Frozen working his way in as well from E-Box. This starts to become problematic. Pain needs some kills and they need them fast. Rix will deliver with 1, but we need more than that. Demo fighting desperately alone here on plat. He'll fall and Rix can't get anything done either. So FaZe will win the pistol in the second half, which does give them a bit of an avenue back into this game.
Yeah, not the most stellar results in the pistols on this map in the last few iterations when playing it, but at least they are able to collect upon another one here. And on the CT side, where, you know, they've not really had as successful as results either compared to their T side. So if they're able to start anything to come on back, it would have to be the early stages of this side, you would expect. A bomb plant down for Pain, though, so they're going to force themselves up in towards this round, and I absolutely can't blame them. Davideus with the rifle, NQZ with the rifle as well. You know, you definitely want your impact players holding on to some of these in their setup that has options with the utility as well, right? They've got some smokes for an execute. They've got some flashes. Again, we're talking about Rix still going for some damage here and there, but ultimately, if you can get him to do a lot of your util setups as well, you can put some good priority on your riflers to try and get down and dirty, where the A site, if the intention is more stacked for FaZe Clan.
Yeah, but I like this buyout for Pain. Nice little pop flash into main. They've got a couple of AKs. You can definitely get a lot of work done. The thing is, though, this is a pretty telegraphed take with that flash coming through. Pain essentially signaling their intentions over to FaZe, and Davideus needs to be very careful about his HP now, down to 43. Might even be worth tossing that AK over, but the trouble is that there's no real obvious person to throw it to. I mean, Demo's tagged up now as well. So he's the only other player with armor that you would want to throw it to, and it looks like it's going to be maybe a double pump here from FaZe. Walking away from the A side. I mean,
there was a smoke that was thrown, and it's drawn a lot of attention towards mid for FaZe to have some eyes there. But Pain still do want to set up towards the A side.
Well, it is going to be that double pump indeed. Pop flash comes on through, but not too much of a concern for Alige, who was playing close, and he'll be able to grab himself a double with that UMP. And the only kill that really gets pulled out there on the entry was the team kill, unfortunately. And so that'll be the end of that one for Pain. And FaZe starting to build this CT side up from the outset quite nicely. A couple of kills over to the UMP is always going to be of benefit. Build a bit of extra cash back up, and 6-8 the scoreline for FaZe with an easier round to come.
Yeah, I mean, that's sort of narrows things down a little bit now, doesn't it? In the scoreline department, you would expect with that force buy not going Pain's way, you would see a 7 or 8 expectation on the back of this round, build up some more of the CT side cash too. And that's when you maybe get a little bit concerned for Pain if they're not able to weather the first gun round. But we'll see what damage they're going to be able to deliver in this round, just spreading across the map, seeing if there's any overzealousness from the FaZe members.
Yeah, very similar approach to this exact round for FaZe as well. Round 3 of the half, they had a full component of Deagles. It's a little bit of a lighter buy, I guess, from Pain this time with a P250 and a Glock in the mix, but certainly enough to get a little bit of damage done. You're probably not going to win the round, but if you hit a nice headshot or two, you might start to break open that CT economy a little earlier than you otherwise would expect. Snow for the first one, and then Rix gets himself a trade as he starts to work into that B-bomb side, but very much the expected result as we do get to see 3 guns through for FaZe. So pretty par score out of that pistol round from FaZe. They win the pistol, they win the anti-force, and then they win the anti-eco, and off to the races. So game on at this point.
Yeah. You would hope so. AWPs are going to be out for both of our star AWPers on these rosters as well. Can definitely get some great openers once again on the exchange of the sides. And I think for me, for Pain, just making sure that time doesn't tick away. Making sure that they are going to be playing with that. Going in for an idea together as the team. As common on this map. Lots of util to be exchanged over at A main, but some slow proceedings for Brokey. Oh, nearly find the opener, but he still will get it.
Yeah, and QC just sort of sliding onto that line after the info was given. It definitely looked like FaZe wanted to contest over bridge. You had a couple of players that were sort of working in that direction, but the second Brokey goes down, it's a different story. Or rather, the second NQZ goes down, I should say.
And the adjustments now for Pain towards this Bravo site. Good utility in mid to flush off some of the FaZe members, but that would almost shift them towards the side of intention here. Brokey not biting that one just yet. A lot for Frozen to do here with Carrigan.
Carrigan dancing around on plat. Won't get too much done. Daviday is taking him down. It's a nice fast flank though from Elysian. He could get a lot done. As Brokey also chimes in with a couple. That is a super solid hold. Great reaction from FaZe. Very, very fast rotation in, and Pain were not expecting it that quick.
No, not at all. Some good mid-control for FaZe. Definitely gives them some options to be able to drop on down and get that quick little flank out as well. And what I was talking about earlier too, Jordan, you know, Pain not able to weather that first buy round. What does this half start to kind of look for them? If anything at all, gets a little bit more difficult on the T side. You might expect if FaZe are able to just, you know, not be worried about economy. They're hitting shots. They're making sure the trades are there. Carrigan's having some good calls in the game as well.
Yeah, a nice aggressive start to this round as well from FaZe on the CT side. You can really see Rain taking that A main space, getting some damage in off of the nade onto stairs. FaZe are not shying away from the early fights, and they're playing a little bit more of a proactive CT style than what we saw from Pain, who were a little bit more reserved, happy to play back in their sights. Intent's going to go down on a nice timing here from Carrigan, and you'd think that should almost just win them the round. It's very tough to come in through that smoke from E-Box, and as you can see, has not worked out very nicely for Pain at all. Elise just looking sharp as ever as well. He's 18 and 9 and really starting to get ramped up on this CT side as well. So from what was a horrible first half for FaZe, this is very much starting to look like a winnable map.
Yeah, I mean, kind of as a whole, right? You had Brokey with a couple of moments there, but it was just a little bit crumbling. Now they're starting to really wake up and figure out just hitting shots, hitting crossfires as well, kind of unmovable at that B site at the moment, dancing around the pillar as well. You know, Carrigan trying to do what he can, but it's just buying a lot of time. I think that's, you know, one of the things that he's really good, successful on when it comes to a map like Anubis specifically. You'll always kind of find him being able to do something generally good for one at that B site, but more often than not, you know, traded out by the team as a commonality. Meanwhile, for Pain, opting for the timeout in this, going to be able to convert into a T-sided round now that they do have a proper gun round ahead of them. Once more with the AWP for NQZ.
Yeah, this is where it actually starts to get a little problematic for Pain. Like, if you don't win this round, you're kind of starting to get out of this map, which is just not what should have happened given that first half. So very, very important gun round coming out here. Demo going to start it nicely. Good spray control. Catches up with a leech. Needs a nade for his troubles. And Frozen waiting to see if he's going to push through that smoke. It's not something that will eventuate, but an opening kill here for Pain, you know, it is the perfect opportunity to get back into this conversation, which has felt like a bit of a drought for them so far, this T side.
Yeah. You're going to be able to figure out that there is a AWP towards this A site, however, as Pain regroup in numbers and start to slant towards the lesser equipped site of FaZe at the moment. Talking about Carrigan before, generally good for one on this B site, but that's when he's got trades available from teammates to also, you know, pick up the slack. This time, he doesn't have that, and he's already gone.
Yeah, honestly, it's not the end of the world for FaZe if they just have these three players over towards A and keep all of those guns alive. Rain, I'm not sure about this one. They're going to go have a little bit of a look into canals. You know, obviously this is still FaZe with the lead at the moment, but there's a potential chance this ends up being a very, very long and sort of arduous half. So better off FaZe just holding onto these guns. They wanted to take some space, I guess, to get towards T-spawn. See if maybe they can find an exit or two. I'm not sure that they're necessarily expecting Pain to be right here. So Rain with a bit of work to do. He's going to fall, and his AK now on the floor. And the hold for Frozen and Brokey gets a little bit more tenuous as T-spawn kind of opens up for Pain now as well. Davideus is having a look in there, but ultimately 2 guns will remain. And with those 2 guns, there's plenty of cash to buy behind it for FaZe. So they're going to keep investing into this half, but do have to be careful that this doesn't turn into 2 or 3 quick rounds for Pain, because in that instance, you know, you see 2 quick rounds go here, up 11 for Pain. Like, let's say the scoreline's 11-9. Money's then kind of broken for FaZe at that point, and all of a sudden it's Pain winning the map once again. So yeah, we're very much sort of on that teetering point. We've got a couple of swing rounds coming up here. FaZe have done a good job to bring it back into a winnable position, but it's still not over the line yet.
Yeah, is this where the pendulum starts to swing back towards Pain's favor? An opening kill in this sort of round could definitely be a little bit more decisive when Rain has a little bit of a peek in towards main. Might need some assistance soon, depending on how disrespectful Pain want to get with the utility to just charge through this one.
Yeah, nice start from Rain. Excellent start from Rain, in fact. He just takes 2 dry aim duels. Davideus and Demo go down. He's not done yet either, as he'll flash himself back into main, clear that out, retake that space for FaZe, and this round is thrown in a bit of a loop for Pain.
Unfortunately, in the beginning there, you just see the first kill when it goes Rain's way against a self-blinded, team-blinded player, right? It's a little bit awkward for Pain in that sort of scenario if they're trying to get right timing on the utility, that flashbang. It's hurtful. And in this sort of scenario too, yeah, you've still got, you know, a bit of an economy beside yourselves as Pain. But these are the sort of rounds that you don't want to start to consider as well. Do we really have to be worrisome about our economy? How do we try and get something back in towards this round? An opportunity if FaZe give you a kill, but that's a lot of information now for Alige to call to the team to start to rotate to B.
Oh, he's maybe going to lose his life for it, but I don't think that that's going to be super consequential for this round. With 20 seconds, where does Pain go? FaZe did a great job of just delaying this round out. You could see when there was about 45 seconds left on the clock, they start dumping util. Molly's all over the place. There was a flash out of B main, trying to keep Pain from hitting a site and then force them to do it really, really late in the round has essentially won them this round. Obviously, that push from Alige as well. So much information for FaZe, and Pain have no option but to save their guns. So, rough one for Pain. Big round win for FaZe. Again, sort of stabilizes the money a little bit more, gets them a little bit more to play with in terms of the round count as well. But it is still very, very tight if Pain can go on a bit of a string. But it is requiring now like 2 or 3 rounds in a row for Pain. You can't do this one for one. You need to get probably a couple of quick rounds here before you let one slip back over to FaZe.
Yeah. This time you need to see something a little bit more commanding from Pain. Maybe turn up the heat a little bit. You know, generally you are seeing Rain just toy with some utility by himself at this A site before ultimately seeing a rotation from Brokey or the like. In this one, again, it's just going to be the sort of standard setup from Pain to put a little bit of that forward util to try and gain a little bit of extra util in return from FaZe before deciding where they want to go. An option to this B side, however, as there's some quick control in towards E-Box.
Not a bad initial setup here for Pain if they do want to hit the B bomb site, but lurking out on a timing, Davideus is going to give up his life. Now, a couple of the CT positions found out. Frozen will change it up a little bit and start to dump util. Almost a decent opening, a decent timing actually for Pain, but they didn't have the backup. They weren't able to trade down, and now it's falling apart. Alige has also won himself a duel onto Rix in middle, and that's the bomb dropped. That is a really, really bad timing for Pain to be dropping the bomb. There's no one there that can go and collect it easily. It's going to force a really big rotate out of NQZ, and now you're down 3 on 5. Where are you going to go?
You've just got to hit something big here as Pain. You don't have a lot of utility. Yeah,
Oh, that's
blind
big.
shot, sure, that could be huge. 30 seconds though, as the bomb is retrieved. Demo would almost have to switch towards a lurking scenario if Pain wanted to go to the A side, but they got to opt to go still to the more stacked side.
It's so late, though. It is so late with 15 seconds on the clock here. How are you realistically going to get in? You got Frozen waiting for you. He's got Carrigan there to back him up as well. That first contact actually taken by Carrigan,
wow.
and Frozen will fall as well. And Pain have gotten in there at the 11th hour, and they will get themselves a bomb plant. Now it's a 2v3 for the retake, if FaZe were even interested in going for it. But with no util and a player deficit, surely this is not going to be the play for FaZe.
We'll have to see. Smoke eventually will fade.
That was the question mark there. If Rain could have got that kill, maybe they would have thought about it. The fact that he can't, well, Brokey just saved the AWP. You've still got quite a bit of cash here to play with for FaZe. Everyone will get a little bit of a boost as the round does end, and FaZe will definitely afford a buy into the next round, but this is a super tight battle at the moment.
Yeah, Snow's just really ripped them back into that round, hasn't he? Just steamrolling in towards the site with his team. I'm talking about the fact that Carrigan is generally good for one, right? In that sort of scenario, it's a 3 versus 5, and
maybe they would have thought about it. The fact that he can't, well, Brokey just saved the AWP. You've still got quite a bit of cash here to play with for FaZe. Everyone will get a little bit of a boost as the round does end, and FaZe will definitely afford a buy into the next round, but this is a super tight battle at the moment.
yeah, Snow's just really ripped them back into that round, hasn't he? Just steamrolling in towards the site with his team. I'm talking about the fact that Carrigan is generally good for one, right? In that sort of scenario, it's a 3 versus 5, and you can kind of just sit pretty a little bit, look for potential crossfire, but unfortunately, Snow, individual executions to come on out, and you put yourselves in a great scenario to not have to worry about any balancing of the money coming into this next round. You also keep yourself in contention to potentially even win the map right now. I mean, 10 to 10, you're looking at a potential reset over towards FaZe now. Like, these are the sort of scenarios that you wouldn't expect FaZe to be in this series when there's a coach on the other team. You've lost the IGL, but FaZe, I mean, we talk about pretty much this whole year just being up and down in performances. Some individual, more so as a team. Got to see it turn around.
Yeah. Look, I don't know if this is good enough for FaZe, frankly, but if they can at least get Anubis over the line and go into an Inferno with a 1-0 lead, they can close out the series 2-0 and make it look comfortable in that sense. But closing out Anubis may not be too easy for them. Brokey down early on in the piece, which means Rain has to start to speed things up a little bit, and he'll bring it back to 4-on-4 at least. But this round is all important for FaZe. There is barely any money. So if they were to lose this one, Pain just should go on to win the map. So it's on Rain to hold on to this A bomb site. Contact play. He sees the shadow, pre-fires it even. But NQZ still good enough to hit the shot despite getting his head tagged up a little bit. And that is going to be the A side taken. And ultimately, FaZe here are just going to have to make the call to save these guns. Otherwise, they don't get another round. So Brokey with enough money, he can repurchase himself. Rain might have to go down to something a little worse for wear, but FaZe are going to afford a buy off of this round. But again, playing from a deficit when you're on the CT side of Anubis and your money's almost on breaking point doesn't seem conducive to winning a match of Counter-Strike on this map.
No. It's just kind of hurtful for FaZe in this one, in how those opening 2 duels have kind of gone as well, right? The fact that Brokey is just spammed through the wall by Davideus, and you get a dink on towards NQZ, but he's got the right gun to just still hit the single shot. That's it. That calls the round. There's no rotations to be made to the A site. There's no kits available for FaZe. You have to balance out this fickle CT side economy that's still plagueful. You opt for the save, but now we're really getting to the nth hour for them, where, if this round doesn't go FaZe's way, I would say that's the map. That would generally be the close.
Yep. Yeah, this is it. Do or die for FaZe. But luckily, they've got all of the tools that they need. Brokey armorless, though. Glass cannon ore. So we'll have to be a little careful with his position, and might end up just deciding to play a little bit more of a passive line this time in Temple, looking towards B main. He has actually been smoked off for the moment, though, so changing things up a little bit. And tons of util getting tossed out into mid at the start of this round. Some from the CTs, some from the Ts. Looks like Pain are interested in taking mid control, which will not be a bad shout at all. It's been left open by FaZe. Brokey starting to come across, though, and may just sort of set himself up, actually, at the A bomb site. So this is really all on Elige. He's got to spot this info. He's got to get this smoke down immediately. And then the B players are going to have to react as well, but it does look like it's going to be an A hit. He's going to take the fight instead. Elige just going Chad mode. He ends up getting only a 1-for-1, but Brokey picking up that line will definitely help out the A hold. There's 3 players here, which might not be expected by Pain, and indeed, Rain will swing on the timing. Brokey's hitting everything, and FaZe will win the round.
You think that might be a little bit risky for Elige instead of using the util there to stave them off, play for the time. You've got a rotation happening, but an audible call for him just to weather that one, go 1-to-1, and the rest of the team distracted. Brokey is just drawing attention from the Pain members to let Rain just flourish from the side itself. It's a great little bait and switch play to come out from them when they needed it the most.
Well, you can see how that round changes dynamically based on the position of Brokey as he comes across. The idea for Elige is no longer hold that util, it's actually take the fight and let the rest of the hold play out as it will. But he's essentially playing delay until that point where you've got the 3rd player over on the A bomb site. And again, great anchoring work from Rain, peeking off of the timing, and gives FaZe another bit of a look in at this game. But still teetering very much on the precipice as Carrigan is trying to hold on to E-Box. It's going to be a nice quick peek in there from Davide. It's always a tough fight there for Carrigan. He'll lose it, but Frozen is locking it down. He's found himself a triple, and again, Brokey on the right side of the map when it's required is going to give that 12th round to FaZe. And FaZe are 1 round away from closing out map 1.
Yeah, that was really cold to come from him there. That was awesome. And that's the map point, as we're mentioning it, for FaZe. I mean, it's not the cleanest map for sure. If you want to call it teething issues, if you want to call it getting settled in the scene, sure. We'll see what the next map may have in store, but it's the crossfires here on the side itself, where you've got the options. You've got Brokey and Rain chiming in for the end. Carrigan, it was quite ambitious for him to be right in the open for that initial duel, but at least the rest of the team was there to get the trades. And you're looking now for the last round of regulation to see if Pain are going to be able to come out with an idea, some sort of execution, some sort of mid-rounding brilliance, if they're still going to opt for a bit of a slower style to try and push us into overtime.
Yeah, I think you definitely need to be winning this map if you're Pain. The trouble is, obviously, it's all well and good to be able to beat FaZe on your own map pick, a map which they are a bit up and down on, but once we get onto Inferno, that's a horrible track record for Pain. They don't convert this map very much at all, so you'd be looking at a 2-0 right there. So if you want to be competitive in this series, Pain, you probably have to force it through to this OT. And to start things off, Elige is going to get aggressive up over bridge. FaZe have tried to change it up and hasn't necessarily worked out from the outset. Carrigan and Brokey, though, winning their individual duels, will pull it right back in the favor of FaZe, and Pain staring down the barrel of defeat now for map number 1.
And Rain's sort of taking some space towards the A side as well if needed, so you could potentially get some further information that no one's going to be rotating back over towards that side. We'll opt better of it. These are the sort of scenarios where if FaZe do make a misstep, however, you could give Pain a way back in. There's a lot of time on the clock to still play with.
QC looking for those entries, rifling, only going to get himself a 1-for-1, and that is simply not enough. Frozen has been a fantastic B hold for FaZe and does enough this time to make it look like a winnable round, but 1v1, bomb plant going down here for Snow. To try to deal with is Rain as he works his way in through E-Box, just picking that pace up, of course, gives away his position, and it now just comes down to this one final duel, and Rain absolutely smacks him away. Confident round out from Rain as well. One of those. Is it going to be one of those 1%ers, the 1 in a million chance? I don't know if it's quite 1 in a million. I feel like that's a bit of a stretch. Maybe 1 in 1,000. You play this game out 1,000 games, or 1 in 100. Pain would win one of them. Probably 1 in 100. 1 in 1,000 is pretty bad. That's pretty bad odds. But 1 in 100, Pain, I could see them, especially after what we saw on Anubis, like, having a good string of rounds here and there and maybe closing a map out here or there. But realistically speaking, it's going to be a tough ask. Instant rotate over toward B from a couple of those Pain members. So definitely reading into something on this pistol round. But FaZe not committing, I should say, to either side of the map just yet. though they will work their way up middle.
The last time these guys did play it, it was FaZe on the T side as well to start off, and they were successful in finding the pistol, so definitely looking to charge and find another one here.
That's not a bad start at all from Snow. Gets himself a 1-for-1. And Rick's going to hold on to carpets. So this does make for a very retakeable site for Pain. I'm not sure if Snow had himself a defuse kit there, which would certainly help, but now Rick's losing out on that duel is going to be a really big problem because post-plant from carpets is a really strong spot for FaZe to be playing. They're going to set themselves up on the bomb site. Davideus will find Brokey. Frozen now having to look for a couple back in response. He'll get one, Alicia another, and that leaves NQZ solo. So pretty tough ask for him, as again, that carpets position is just so powerful. FaZe will win the pistol to start off map 2.
And caught off guard at the end there a little bit with the bomb not planted in the position that you would generally expect for a carpets hold 2, right? So just a great spot that FaZe are able to get on the back of Rain and Elige up there too. So well done for FaZe to gather that start. We will see the force up though from Pain. We are seeing this be pretty common. Second round force ups. See what these MP9s are going to be able to do. Any crossfires potentially. Down through Diggity for everyone watching. The Aussie term for short. A short.
Diggity! Everyone spam Diggity in the chat if you're absolutely based. Anyone that doesn't is just un-Australian, really. Yeah. Anyway, we've got 5 MP9s here for Pain, so they're just going to go swinging from Dig, and it hasn't quite worked out. That's actually quite a good response from FaZe. There was a team kill in the mix there, but NQZ shouldn't be able to hold on to things here solo, and eventually does get run down by Brokey. I mean, it's definitely a winnable round, though, for Snow, with Brokey being so low, and all he has to do is catch a nice timing onto Frozen. It could work for sure.
Yeah, Frozen, though, tucking himself. There's some semblance of a crossfire here.
Tough ask for Snow. Swing's going to come through for Pit, and Frozen set up very nicely. And so that'll be a second for FaZe. Although it's a fairly costly one, there was the investment, of course, from Pain, so it'll be all good for FaZe. They'll have the opportunity to farm that cash back up in this round.
Yeah, there was definitely an opportunity, though, you got to say, for Snow to be able to find that right. I feel like the smoke that's thrown to Dig a little bit at the later side of things did make it a little bit more difficult. He's, you know, trying to flush them out of Pit with a molly, too, just revealing his position. In the grand scheme of things, unfortunate for Pain that the force buy doesn't go their way, so they're going to have to potentially concede a decent T-side lead for FaZe early on. And you start to ask the question as well, right? What does that first gun round look like?
Ooh,
okay.
That's a sharp shot. And another one out from Rick. So this round starts to maybe fall apart a little bit for FaZe, though they have seen a bit of a stack over toward B. Brokey not too scared of that. Demo will pick the pace up. Now it's on to Carrigan to try to bring this one back, and he'll have to be clean with these shots. Inevitably, numbers are starting to thin out for Pain, which is where this starts to become winnable for FaZe. And Elige tasked with those entry duties. There's a push in through the smoke on the timing as well. Carrigan just going to plant super safe behind first oranges and hope that Elige can cover off, which looks to have occurred. Any guns here for Pain to pick up? A MAC-10 and a Deagle to work with. Probably doesn't fill you with a whole lot of confidence considering they're at about half HP. Elige going to be facing. He cops a bink, and Carrigan doubled up at new box. It's just hoping that Elige can get this one done. But if not, he's going to try and hide and get it done himself. And he'll get that first kill nicely on to Snow. Davideus, low. Then a jiggle peek in there from Carrigan. Gets the job done. He will win the round for FaZe. But it is a little too close for comfort at the moment.
Yeah, costly in consistency, and you know, does it throw cause for concern to FaZe here that's the sort of round where it's just the pistols, it's the, you know, the stock standard USPs and a deagle here and there to get some damage to get the job done. First shot out from Davideus onto Rain, a little bit unfortunate for Rain, but the remainder of them, I mean, the crossfires not really established from FaZe. You've got to see Carrigan win that one, otherwise that would just be an appalling round for them. First gun round now, a bit quicker up the guts of mid.
Yeah, Unleash, not even just up mid, he's into apps. He's just gone all the way through.
It's not the normal way to go there.
Yeah. Up middle, out diggity, into boiler, through apps, something like that. I don't know. Go look up Foon. By the way, 5-on-5. And FaZe just taking that apps control, which isn't anything too extreme, quite frankly, at this early point in the round. It's just the way that Unleash went through middle to do it was certainly something.
Well, standard Inferno thing, smokes to deny entry at the B site that you're going to keep on rinsing and repeating. So we'll see how long that might be kept there for these B players. But with 50 seconds to go, FaZe start to pivot more towards this A site. You've got the AWP that's going to be able to swivel back towards apartments for any sort of pop. In fact, smoke has just been refreshed there on the timing to keep FaZe at bay when they drop their own wrap smokes.
Timo, 1 for 1. Not really going to be enough to lock in this A bomb side. It leaves Davideus with a bit too much to do. Hard to double down from this kind of a position if FaZe play it well. And ooh, the peaks are coming through kind of one by one, but Rain will lock it in from that balcony position. Just set up like a turret, and so that's all good. All's well that ends well. Brokey set up on the library line. Perfect position to hold off for this retake, and Rix just comes swinging across, loses his life. Brokey for another one, and that is round 4 done and dusted. Snow is not interested.
Nah, not at all. Got to put a priority on taking this AWP for NQZ in the next round if you're even able to hold on to it, because there was a little bit of a hunt on the tail end of that one. There still actually is a hunt, so we'll see if the gun will make its way into the next round or not. Sort of questions to find some answers here, though, right? How was Pain's first gun round going to be looking? I thought it was going to look okay when they had NQZ on the right line, dropping the smoke towards the carpets to stop any little flood out and split to the site potentially with the Archer smoke and the library smoke going down from FaZe, but it just decides to rotate towards the B site and leave the team a little bit dry. Demo not tradable, Davideus not tradable. These are things that if we start to see a lot more disconnection from Pain in these important moments in the rounds, it can falter quite quickly.
Yeah, I mean, this is one of those situations where if you're an underdog, you have a close map, you make it look interesting, and then you get rolled on the second map. That happens so often. Someone like a FaZe would kind of just warm up and start to feel that pressure release. Quick over towards the B side of the map here as Snow will try to pick the pace up there himself. FaZe opting to go fast at B as they lost the duel over in middle. Rain actually falling there as well, so they do need to make this B take work. What's going on there? Brokey's just jumped out onto the side. I don't think he was holding onto a gun. I don't even know what was going on there. But in the end, they're into B. They do have the 2-on-3 post plant, but half HP for Carrigan. And Pain looking to come through on that retake will be assisted by that shot from NQZ. Now it's just Carrigan, and he's going to have to go carry again, and that will not happen. A 1v3, too much to ask. Defuse is on, and Pain will get their first round of Inferno.
Yeah, AWP working a treat for NQZ, but it's just for Pain, making sure they have the kind of allocations and the right rotations when smoke starts to fade as well. Nicely done to just more importantly get on the board and taking a risk in through middle as well, right? You're kind of doing that a little bit more on the solo side, getting in front of the flames, but it all works out for Pain. And you flip on over, actually, for FaZe. There's still been enough significant damage dealt round over round to force out more investments of utility and the such, and now that's kind of seeing its weight here. Frozen down to a Galil, Rain down to a Mac-10. An opportunity for Pain to start to find a couple of good CT rounds. As we get some early damage onto Davideus in the boiler, but the AWP of NQZ misses its mark, and Rain will polish off Davideus, so gets an upgrade for himself in the gun department, and FaZe can sit pretty for a little bit of time.
Rotation coming through for A. It's going to be a full commitment from Pain to try to just hold on to this A bomb site. But FaZe already have so much space, and creeping on a line like that for Demo is just not going to be enough. Snow will catch Carrigan as he tries to get up to some trickery, but last player standing on this A bomb site is going to be NQZ, and he was last spotted towards carpets, so Pain will be quite aware of that position. So they get this bomb plant down, smoke obscuring the vision in Carps for now. But, I mean, realistically, this has to be a save again from Pain, and this is the problem with Inferno, is that, you know, even if you have numbers on a site, it can become so easily overwhelmed, and then at that point, the retake is just almost never worth trying.
For sure. You give, you know, FaZe 2 seconds to set up as well in a scenario, and you're really not wanting to kind of go for a retake as Pain. Hold on to this AWP, see if you can do some damage again in the next round potentially, have some small adjustments, and maybe look to get a little bit more aggressive, right? Get some banana control, for example, that we've not really seen be a full contest yet. Not the chicken.
Chicken.
Still,
Well, I would say this is going quite swimmingly for FaZe.
yeah. There will be a buy up though for Pain, of course, saving the weaponry. So they'll try their hand again, and I'm more interested to see what sort of adjustment that they're going to be able to figure out, right? A little bit more aggression might be the name of the game here, but you'll just see the standard deeper banana smoke come out and some little early utilities there. I wouldn't mind seeing Rix and Snow hang around, but they're already kind of getting pushed off the line. Disregard what's happening over there with NQZ finding an opener.
Rix doing his best to try to hold on to Banana, and it's not going to work out. B-site has now been taken. Smoking for CT spawn will allow the transition into the site for FaZe, but they don't actually have the bomb in tow. So Rain's going to have to go on a bit of a journey to go and collect that one. In the meanwhile, Demo having a little bit of a look through construction. So this is still a bit awkward for FaZe. I mean, if there was a push down middle or something like that from Pain, this round could have very easily fallen apart. But the fact that Rain's now been able to retrieve that C4 should make for a pretty easy plan. It's only Demo over on this B bomb site, and he'll be playing retake more than likely.
Yeah, I mean, you'd hope so, right? There's a lot of utility for these Pain guys to go in for a proper retake here. You've got an AWP for NQZ that can still hold, you know, something like the new box line too, right? So you would kind of expect that Pain have the right equipment here.
Yep. Great nade, though, onto the head of David. That was a real toss from Rain. He's been practicing his cricket in the lead up to IEM Melbourne. Might go to the MCG later on, but he's going to have his feet sizzled. Still does really well to get himself one kill onto Demo. And despite all of this util that Pain have got, they are just getting so unlucky on this retake, and he won't have the time. I mean, Rain burning alive gets a kill, and then through the smoke, another kill comes through for Frozen. What are you going to do? Unfortunately, that round just doesn't play out for Pain, and it's going to be a 6-1 lead now for FaZe.
Yeah, those are kind of the unlucky ones, right? Where I'm talking about, you've got the utility, right? You can kind of throw a molly over to Nubos, you can flush them out, you can try and get the kill, but it's, as you mentioned, the fact that it just goes the way of FaZe in that scenario. There was, for a moment in time, a pretty substantial, 3 versus 5 advantage that Pain seat themselves in before just getting ultimately pulled back by FaZe. Roki, you always feel like this guy is just capable of having some great round moments. He always has them in every single series. Discussions, though, to be had now as a collective for Pain really starting to feel like this half might be getting away from them, because, I mean, from what we're seeing, it is.
Yeah, most definitely. I mean, it's tough on the CT side as well when things aren't going your way. Obviously, the economy's working against you. The meta's kind of working against you. The fact that this is not your map is working against you. The fact that you have a stand-in coach playing on your team. You've lost your IGL. Everything's kind of working against Pain in this half of Counter-Strike. And that can be a very, very tough hole to dig themselves out of. And I don't necessarily think anyone's going to begrudge them for that fact. But plain and simple, it is a rough map of Counter-Strike so far for Pain. And I don't know that it gets any easier or better.
Potentially not, but we'll maybe give them a bit of a silver lining later. They've got banana control to a degree, a lot of utility exchange, NQZ now on the line, but this is an important one for Davideus and for Rix. It's just the one-to-one trade.
It's a very nice trade from Elige, though. If he goes down there as well, that round might just fall apart for FaZe. But now they've still got a fighting chance. And Rain's also caught himself a nice little timing here into Arch. Snow on the wrap. He's kind of looking for him. Rain is going to be spotted out in the end. So that's really heads up from Snow. Doesn't spot anything. Looks around behind him in towards CT spawn. And here is now where FaZe just have to go for a bona fide take on the A site. They've just got to get the battering ram out and try and break down the door. Brokey has put a little hole in the door, but there needs to be a bit of a bigger one. And FaZe, in the end, actually decide that they want to go elsewhere, or they at least want to slow things down. But it's very awkward here. With 30 seconds left on the clock, they're going to try and give some time to Frozen to activate through Arch side. But he's going to have to wrap in around onto A. Elige as well, having a look from Carpets. 20 seconds left on the clock. FaZe really running down that timer as Brokey now starts to walk his way up through Diggity. But as of yet, not finding themselves a fight. Demo will win himself a couple, and Brokey has surely timed himself out of this round. Can't win that final fight. Demo, great anchor work in that pit position, and Pain will get themselves a second.
Yeah, the fact that the library duel goes the way of Pain as well, and there's no flank potential to come on out. I think that's a real important one on the round. Specifically, you mentioned Elige's one too. You know, a couple of key options there for Pain that they're able to figure out, and the time then starts to become their friend. And you're always going to love that on the CT side. You've got the contingency in case there is a bit of a mid-wrap back from FaZe as well, with NQZ slotting down into the T-stairs. So nicely done from Pain to get a second round on the board and kind of break FaZe down a little bit coming into this next one as well. Galil's affair with an AK and some Tech 9s. Definitely want some close quarters combat to a degree for Brokey and for Carrigan.
Nice work from Demo for the first kill, but unfortunately gets smashed back through the smoke by Rain, and Carrigan's also taken the head off of Rix. Davideus is desperately trying to hold on to this A bomb site. He's got no assistance, he's got no util to delay, and he'll just have to try and escape with his life for now to set up for that retake. It'll give FaZe the site, it will give them the plant. It's a very safe plant from Frozen, but if they could somehow maybe take Carpet's control, then that could be a round-winning position. Rain holding on to the dig line, also going to come into play pretty substantially later on in the round if he's able to survive there. But slow creep forward from Pain, and
real slow.
They're going for this. I don't know if they are. I don't think they're going for this.
No, it doesn't look like it. Hey, the smoke over at Moto is just refreshed and is really keeping Pain at bay from Snow to be able to even get in for any retake. So that kind of just stops Pain's advances in its entirety.
Wow. I mean, you would have thought being down 6-2 or now 7-2, you probably have to start going for some 3v3 retakes. Are going to need to get some rounds on the board somewhere. The only thing that I can think about that is they're like, obviously they're aware that FaZe don't have a huge amount of cash. If they can maybe catch them with a kill or two on the exit, you know, they can keep that economic pressure on FaZe, and they can probably still like go for a bit of a string of rounds here. If Pain can get one or two quickly here, they do get that third pretty much for free. So there is a 5 still an opportunity for Pain here, but gonna have to start going for it now. Like if they're not gonna go for it in that round, okay, fine. That's kind of like on the teetering point, but you're now down 7-2, right? And I feel like 4 or 5 is gonna be the cutoff here for Pain. So they're gonna have to start going for some of those kinds of retakes.
Yeah. Otherwise, you need a hero moment at the very beginning of a round, potentially, and missing an AWP shot like that is not going to be the one. That's a team kill to come through from Elige. That's a bit awkward. Rain didn't deserve that, but an opportunity for Pain that they can start to capitalize on nonetheless. Player advantage. An option to further that as well, with a wrap eventually coming onto Brokey, but he'll get traded out, and now it's on to Frozen and Carrigan to see what they can do with a minute left.
Yeah, but here's the difficulty again with Inferno is that it's a 2-on-3, sure, but look at how isolated the defense is. I mean, you got a guy in CT who's kind of watching for the arch push. You got a guy on B and a guy on A. So it's essentially 3 2v1s, actually. Maybe a fast rotate in from Rix here from CT spawn if there's early info, for example, if Demo hears them coming in Carpets or who knows what. But if this is just a contact play out Carpets, and they get a 1-for-0 onto Demo. All of a sudden, this is a 2v2 post plant, and that's very losable. Nice jump in from Carrigan. Frozen not quite quickly enough there to actually get that kill to save him. Demo falling down, getting the kill, but Frozen now a 1-on-2, and very winnable, especially if he picks his timing here. He's going to push his way forward. Oh, I thought he was going to take that Brackus fight against Rix, and that would have been perfect, isolating that solo duel. But he's just going to tuck himself into the backside and play the time.
Yeah, Bomb's not really
has
for him, remember.
Maybe that's what he's gambling on. That they're not going to check this position. Just pops his head up here and there. First head goes off. It's Rix to fall, but Snow will find the trade, and Pain do get themselves a shaky round, but to put behind it. So that's mission successful for Pain, really.
I think importantly they just got the round, right? The trades were coming on out, assisted by Elige too. The fact that Demo manages to still get away with a third kill in the round, and then an opportunity when at least there is the 2 versus 1 at the end, and it isn't just the isolated duels that are eventuating time and time again. Yeah, Pain get another round on the board. They set themselves up though for 2, you would assume, with the way that the economy was for FaZe now.
Everyone's whiffing.
Yeah.
But it's all good in the end, as FaZe are happy to take some space. Carpets has been cleared out by Rain. This is really relying on Brokey's AK to do something really special, because there's a whole lot of nothing behind this buy for FaZe. They do get themselves a kill courtesy of Carrigan, or even a couple of them. As Demo will go down now as well, and they are going to get a bomb plant, which will significantly assist in the buy next round, but it might give them a bit of a chance in here in the 2v3 as well.
Now we'll have to see what they're going to be able to do. Specifically, maybe Rain to pull away with one and then put more on a Carrigan.
Rain can get himself a gun here, and Carrigan can get one. Then it is round on for sure. Carrigan's been spotted on that cross, but Pain are definitely taking their time on this entry, and a push through the smoke. It could go very wrong with 2 players looking at it. Rain and Carrigan will clutch out a very cheeky round for FaZe, and that might just be Pain doomed for this series now. They needed to bring it back in the first half of Inferno, and unfortunately, that is now another round that FaZe probably should not have gotten. A bit of momentum heading into the final round of the half as well, and I mean, this could end up being a 9-3 half, and look, I don't think this Pain is coming back from that on the T side, based on what we saw on Anubis.
And that's not even the hero gun that they come into that round with, right? It's the pistols that get majority of it to allow the pickup of the A1Ss to get the job done from the veterans. Carrigan and Rain getting it done. Quite the throwback.
Well, once more, Pain going to give it a crack. They have forced into this round as much as they can. They've got 3 MP9s, but at least an AWP out for NQZ. That might be the X factor. NQZ getting involved in the round somehow. Not a whole lot of map territory taken for FaZe early on in the round. Just respecting that banana take from Pain. And Elige spotted out by NQZ. The fight in middle doesn't go well for Carrigan either, but Rain is still hanging around in Boiler, and he could really be a big difference maker if he picks his timing nicely.
Yeah, finally FaZe recognizing that there is a B side again on this map though. Looking to potentially pivot over towards it, and it will draw a rotate from Demo. Give an option potentially for Rain to try and find some good timing as well, but will he be able to best NQZ, who is already on the AWP line? A flash from Brokey goes out, and actually nets them the great kill, so that's a good little switch. And now Davideus, if he falls, I mean, that's the A site.
He won't really be checked very well by Rain there, and actually ends up cleaning up a couple before he goes down. Brokey too close for comfort. Are these CTs? He's surely going to get overwhelmed, and eventually does fall. So 8-4 at the end of the first half. It's still pretty good for FaZe. So first half went pretty well for FaZe. 8-4 the lead that they've got themselves, and it is their map pick as well. They're up 1-0 in terms of the overall series score as well, and some pretty good rounds coming out. It looks like things are going to be a little bit more comfortable on this map, but we'll see if maybe Pain can cause a bit of a ruckus on this T side. Their T side was very rough though on Anubis, and so I doubt that we're going to be seeing anything too fantastic, but let's not get too far ahead of ourselves as Davideus will pick up Rain.
Look at the rotate that's immediately thrown to FaZe though. 3 players towards this B site now, and they are correct in assuming to do this.
Brokey looking for a couple of taps, not finding them. Frozen got himself one there, and Elise is going to come into play as they charge their way back down. Banana, he's out of there. He doesn't want a banana smoothie at all. Oh, bit of an awkward jump there. He's missed the jump, but it doesn't matter. He's hit the head. How about that? 1 for 1, 2 for 1 in the end, actually, overall for Elise, as they tried it to exit Banana. And this round gets a bit more awkward, a bit more difficult for Pain as a result.
Yeah, Frozen and Carrigan. See if they can put themselves in a winning situation with Carrigan slipping into the pit as well. They can't flush him out. They would make noise dropping down onto his location.
Can't hit the shots, and that's really what matters at the end of the day. So it's on to Frozen, who will try to pick the pace up as that bomb plant's going down, trying to isolate a quick 1v1. It's what you should be doing, but now that he hasn't got that initial pick, it is going to be a 2-on-1, and it is going to be cleaned up nicely. Pain will win the pistol in the second half.
I'll throw it up to that disgusting view model that these players are opting for these days.
You're not a fan?
Very middle one. I'm not a fan of it. I mean, like, throw it back towards, what, like Quake days and something like that, but I'd kind of throw it back to, like, 1.6, where you could turn the whole view model off completely, you know? Valve, bring that back. Bring that back. Regardless, that's a pistol round for Pain. They'll be happy with that after the 4-8 that they'll see themselves losing, as opposed to leading the 4-8 on the last map and ultimately dropping the map 13-11. So if they're able to kind of echo back, that would be pretty good. Davideus again, on for an opener.
Yep. It's going to be a tough hold here for Frozen, especially if he's not going to hit those first couple of deagle shots. Not a single connection onto any of the Pain players so far. And that'll probably just be the B-side loss. And I think if you're Pain here, you're kind of incentivized to just try to hold on to these guns and run it back next round, because chances of you winning this round from here, very slim. Rain's going to go have a little bit of a look here, and if you could get Demo, maybe you think about it. But frankly, the fact that they've even got that Mac 10, it just allows you to have a gun to drop over to Elige and hope for a little bit of a better approach in the next round.
And there's also no kits, so you've only got, 30 seconds to get in there, and it is B-site Inferno with a couple of bits of pieces of utility for Pain to still throw at you. So you just concede this one. You've forced up into it. You're exactly right with the Mac 10 that can be dropped over, and see what damage you can deliver in the next round, whilst kind of just keeping conscious that you'll have a gun round after. So you start to give Pain some opportunities to figure out some potential weak points in this map. Another world in which this one could start to get close, potentially.
Terrorists win.
As there will be no other fallen fellas in the server at the end of that one. So pretty much go into the next round with what you had in this one. See if there's any sort of adjustments as well.
Well, a bit of util back and forth at the start of the round. Standard fare, really. But mid-banana smoke is keeping Pain at bay this time. Davideus wondering, where's my health gone? Bit of team damage in there. Not the end of the world, but as mentioned, the saved weaponry from FaZe gives them a little bit of a fighting chance in this round. They're just going to try and slow it down as much as possible for Pain. Cycle through these smokes. See if they can force Pain into a late hit somewhere that might be stacked. So Pain just want to go straight on into top Nana as soon as this smoke does start to fade. Elige thought about getting things going, but the flash came through way too late from Frozen, and in the end, once again, we have a very, very similar round kind of playing out with Frozen with that Deagle just trying to fall back away from coils, and unlikely to find too much here. Rick's on the warpath.
Well, maybe. You still want to give this one a little bit of a crack. You've picked up a HE grenade and a smoke for Brokey. You've got your teammate with you. Some damage here is all right, but there's time for a sort of take. Now, falls away just a little bit and see if you can contain any damage on the outset of this round.
I mean, this is just trying to get exit frags at this point for FaZe. There's no way you're retaking this bomb site, but if they could force Demo to go down with the bomb, you know, take his gun away, it's just going to force a little bit more of a reinvestment. So, that's not too bad. Fair bit of damage done to the T-side economy. But Pain are working their way into it nicely. 8-7, the scoreline sort of creeping back. The deficit only 1.
But this is where we'll have the gun round come up for FaZe now as well, right? We'll see what sort of defense they want to opt for on this CT side. Any aggressions, a little bit more towards Banana, perhaps. Orp out for Brokey. Got that mid spot for him. Yeah, he splits the wickets.
NQZ taking some nice space through carpets, and that's going to work out perfectly. Catches rain. Cheeky little timing from him there. So FaZe on this CT side, finding it a little bit difficult to get the ball rolling, but Brokey is waiting for this exact push, and he'll miss the shot. He's really not happy with himself there. You could see it in the player cam. That's just such a routine shot, and that is going to be the round lost as a result. I mean, Carrigan can only do so much on that side alone. So Brokey knows as soon as he's missed that shot that that's pretty much the round done and dusted, and FaZe are going to allow Pain up to 8.
Yeah, that is a real rough one for Brokey. Right at the back of that cubby way as well, just not able to escape, and you'll see, I mean, eventually Snow to find his gun within the smoke over at the site itself. But if you can, you know, as we're talking about, start to establish some rounds on this T-side as Pain, start to exploit a couple of these weaknesses of FaZe, uncharacteristically, in fact, missing some shots.
Well, yeah, you say that, but it's been a bit up and down for Mr. Brokey lately. But also, what I'm interested in seeing here is if Pain can actually break the CT economy now, because money's going to be in that wishy-washy period here for FaZe if they don't win this next round. We'll have to see where the buy ends up going here, but I'm assuming they're going to buy into this round, and at that point, if they then lose this round, they're in trouble. Alicia's bought some util. They were thinking about it, definitely, but they've actually decided to go for a half buy, so that's probably the more percentage play from FaZe.
We have seen them do more with less already, right? A single hero gun, which wasn't even the tip of the spear for it. It was the pistols kind of doing the lion's share of the work, so we'll maybe see if that's going to be the sort of same thing here. Or if Frozen's A4 and Carrigan's now A1S is going to be able to do something.
Well, I think that the setup that Pain have got right now with the Orb just watching this line should be pretty comfortable. I mean, Brokey is going to spot it out, has a deagle in hand, doesn't really want to take that kind of a fight with that kind of weaponry. But yeah, some chip damage being done here by FaZe early on in the round is going to help. And the interest toward the A bomb side is also a little bit concerning for Pain, because that is where the stack is. You've got 4 players toward the A side of the map. Elise just sort of jiggles spotting over toward B with a smoke. Oh, and that was awkward timing indeed for Demo, but Carrigan just not quite sharp enough to finish that kill off.
That would have been the one. Now it gets a little bit more awkward for Rain as well. Can't quite navigate anything, and this stack of the A site starts to get picked apart little by little.
Ooh. Only the one for Brokey. Didn't quite get exciting. Frozen will lose his life as well. So really nicely done from Pain. Just slow contact play, which theoretically should be pretty scary in a round like that, but does actually manage to put together a pretty nice couple of aim duels. And so Pain, they're going to find the lead now on Inferno. And again, it is going to be a close map here. So maybe that Anubis wasn't quite so much the abnormality that we expected. In fact, maybe that's what we should be expecting out of this series. And that, I think, is a very, very bad sign for FaZe. Because again, we must reiterate that Pain are playing with a stand-in.
Yeah, a coach and no IGL, so it's the team doing the calls together, where you can still, you know, run a lot of your protocols and stuff, where you would have Big Azira kind of in there. You could substitute him, of course, the likes of Dapadeus here, who's kind of stepping in towards that spot. But, I mean, imagine, you know, the world in which Anubis was, you know, the second half came out with this sort of start for Pain, right? Where they had the 8-4 lead. They get off the gates kind of straight away, and they're able to really start to figure that one out. Like, it could have been a good victory for them. Where was this sort of performance consistency from them?
Well, back into the gun round. And this will be again where FaZe try to hop back on the wagon. Just get this game underway in the direction that they would want it to be going. A lot of focus again, of course, on Banana as that util just gets absolutely tossed in. FaZe are kind of throwing the kitchen sink at Banana, and they have managed to take it as a result. Pain not interested just yet. They may come back later on in the round to try and take it once some of the smokes have faded away, but deep bottom Nana smoke for FaZe is going to allow them to rotate Unleash back over to A preemptively.
Need to see Brokey on that offline as well. Hit the shot if anything comes flooding his way. But with a minute still on that timer, Pain, this is the sort of time where they hope to find an opener, or hope to find an idea on where they might want to pivot towards. As the smoke starts to fade, Demo will be taken out. So first casualty to the side of Pain, and they'll start to pivot towards this B site where there's only Frozen, who now drops the smoke to buy a little bit of time as the rest of the cavalry come over.
Yeah, they have all that information in mid. Carrigan walking his way down. So this is no secret that Pain are going to be heading toward the B bomb site, and FaZe have everything they need to hold on to it. It's just going to have to be really a bit of a miracle round here from Pain. Got so many players that they need to pick up through the smoke, and Carrigan gets around behind them. I mean, that's just a mess of a round from Pain. They got stalled for so long that Carrigan walks up behind 3 and says, "Thank you very much, I'll take that." That's not good. That's not it at all.
Yeah, and Neo's quite happy with that round that you can see at the end there. Some good solid claps. So that's a round that FaZe Clan needed a good idea, some good timing. Carrigan's timing impeccable, as Alige will fall to the martyrdom at the end there of Snow. As we will get tied up, you know, enough economy there for Pain that they'll have another crack at this one, and maybe even the second one as well, with 3 players still looking relatively okay. Lost bonus can assist there a little bit if this round doesn't go their way. They get in front of a bit of this utility down Banana. As I say that, NQZ, well, he's just getting all of it this way, and it'll even finish him off. So returning fire, Alige for a double, and that makes things quite the more awkward for Pain.
Oh dear, it is looking very awkward now for Pain. Very, very awkward indeed. That previous round, they just get kind of smoked by the mid-round rotation from FaZe, and this round, trying to contest Banana somewhat, and they get deleted. So this is where what has looked like a pretty close map up to this point may start to fall apart. Money getting not too low yet for Pain, but certainly in the territory where you'd be getting worried. And this should be a 10 for FaZe. Alige, though, will go down, but Frozen with the info, well prepared for that fight, and just going to back his way up into Arch.
Not bad on the timing for him to do so either. You don't want to give Pain another opportunity to bring a deficit position back into contention, just like that. But nevertheless, Carrigan starting to fire up. Going positive.
Yeah, but FaZe themselves not really firing up too much. I feel like they at least on the player cams there, kind of just look like this is a routine. Bit of a day at the office, you know? No need to get too pumped up.
Yeah, I think though it's quite important for them to feel like that it is just another day in the office, right? When you consider all the up and down score results that they've had in a couple of the previous tournaments as well, and they're getting to these third place decider matches and not able to get into the actual final, feels like, you know, when is the time that we'll see the FaZe clan return to glory?
Yeah.
They need to just have the series being one that they should be winning.
As we've discussed, they have a pretty good conversion rate in Australia, but it feels like a long way away from FaZe making the final, let alone winning it. Though I seem to recall that might have been the case back in 2018 as well, which I think was their first win. Rain opening the account there onto Rix. The bomb plan is going down for Pain. Trouble is they're just losing players all over the place, and 3v5 for a post plan is going to be a tough one to deal with. Dancing around the dig pillar is Carrigan. Survives a little longer than he might have thought. I mean, this is a really messy round again. It's kind of chaotic, and maybe Pain are thriving in that chaos. Davidea's a bit of an off angle out from him here. Could he pick up one or two if FaZe start to filter their way on through? Snows hit a headshot onto Rain, and Davidea's catches a leash. It looks like FaZe just didn't do anything. They didn't want to do anything. They were kind of waiting and waiting and waiting, and then Pain made their move, and ultimately they've won the round. I mean, that was quite strange from FaZe. I think they might have been waiting for some of those peaks from Pain, but just didn't win their duels, and ultimately it ends up looking like FaZe just go into retake positions and then don't retake and just lose all of their guns, and Pain are like, all right, we'll have this round, I guess, if you don't want it.
Yeah, I mean, there's some damage being delivered through the smokes and everything as
great shot.
was getting peppered a little bit and then finished off by Davidea. So I was kind of waiting for Frozen's flank to come back around through, you know, Archers and to Diggity, but he opted to go in towards Apartments instead, and then it was just too little too late because he lost his teammates. Bit rough, but what's not rough is an opener if you're a FaZe fan. Brokey will finish off Davidea nice and early as we have an exchange of utility for the banana control. Now it's on to Pain to try and dig deep here and try and recover this round from behind.
Yeah, same kind of scenario as what we had on Anubis, where FaZe were trying to close the game out on the T side, and the money was a bit of a concern for them. So they do need a couple of clean rounds here. Obviously, nice to get that start from Brokey, and he spotted the player in Boiler there as well. That first jiggle from Rix gave him away. He saw the leg or the knee or something, and so sets himself, gets the shot through nicely, and another perfect setup for a round for FaZe. This time they've got to ensure they do not drop a 3v5 again.
For sure. Checking through the smoke, nobody home, 50 seconds to go still for Pain, but they walk into a potential crossfire as Carrigan. Good for one.
Yeah, I like this spot for Brokey as well. Going to be a tough one to clear if Pain were even to be able to get out of Boiler. And of course, as you can see there from Carrigan, nice 2K, unable to do it. So from a bit of a nothing retake from FaZe, we kind of find ourselves in a bit of a nothing round here from Pain. Like, just lost a couple of players early on in the round to Brokey's AWP and then tried to walk out Boiler.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not showing a huge amount of ingenuity from Pain. The round was kind of over from the outset. With 18 seconds left on the clock here, Demo is going to, I guess, try and hang on to this AK, but he is in serious danger of dying after time if he doesn't go down now, because there is a wrap coming on through. Frozen having a bit of a look, and, well, he will catch up with him before the time ticks away. So maybe that's ultimately good news for Pain, but yeah, really quite a poor round given the circumstances for Pain, because that was almost reset potential, and that was potentially the map on the line for Pain, but FaZe get it there, and they get it with 5 guns alive, or 4 guns alive, whatever it may have been. 4 guns, I think it was, and so their money builds back up.
Yeah. It's still pretty rough, though, for Pain when you consider that they actually are broken in their economy, right? That put them down on you know, 1,500 and so. So, yeah, it's just pistols, bit of utility for Rix and for Demo. If you're playing long-range duels here as Fane, well, you're kind of hitting the nail on the head in how you want to try and 100% this round.
Yeah, that's a rough one for sure for Pain. That was the round that they needed to win. That was the swing round. And the same thing happened to them on Anubis. FaZe, they won the rounds when it mattered, right at the back end. And a lot of it was actually off the back of Brokey's AWP as well. He missed that absolute sitter earlier on in the half, but 16 and 13, and he's looking pretty solid in a very important round. This round, though, could be quite awkward for FaZe with only a couple of players over towards A. Carrigan's spotted them out early. He's able to drop the smoke down at his feet at Moto and just back up into a bit more of a defensible position. The A players are bunkering down and hoping that the rotate's going to come through and save them, and that seems to be what will occur. Frozen, aware that there's a player close here, and gets the spray down onto Rix. It ends up being a super clean round from FaZe. Brokey with the USP in the center of his screen gets the job done. 12-10 for FaZe, and money's building up nicely. They've got a 2-round buffer, and here's where they feel comfortable, like they can close out the series.
Yeah, we'll see what the buy is going to look like for Pain, and if they're going to potentially go with a bit of a faster hit, because, you know, they're not getting in front of the utility down Banana at the moment. They're almost being coerced into just play it slower, but with the loss bonus, you know, not providing enough after the force buy in the previous round, they're just going to Groundhog Day it out. Tech 9s yet again, a little bit more utility this time for sure, but you weren't able to really find a single kill in the previous rounds. And with all of the control that FaZe are already seeing at Banana and not a real heavy investment of returning utility, they're quite convinced that they can go for the full control in a scenario like this. You see Elige a bit further down, you send Frozen away, because ultimately they should know that this is going to pivot towards the A site. Now it's going to be quicker for Pain.
Rain's going to get an incent down, though, on a very nice timing, which is just going to stall things up. There's a smoke as well to meet it, and he can play around that. There's a lot of space for the CTs right here, and they're able to do a pretty good job initially, but Demo and David, flooding on through, do get themselves a couple of trade frags. Issue is C4 still needs to be retrieved, so that'll cost a bit of time. And FaZe can't afford to go for this retake. Even if they lose every single gun, they will be able to repurchase everything they could possibly want. So they do get 2 bites of the cherry for this 13-10. They're going to go for it. Elige leading that charge will get the headshot onto Demo. Davideus on the peak. Oh, it's a team kill from Brokey. He's shot Elige in the head. That's an awkward time to do it, but still a winnable round. FaZe need to lock in and push their way back in onto this. They've spotted out Davideus. They don't know exactly where NQZ is, and the round's fallen apart. Okay, game on. Maybe an OT.
Yeah, that's certainly a round pulled out for Pain at the end there. You think the FaZe are going to be able to kind of clean that one up, right? They get the idea that they've got the Banana control. They can start to rotate a player away. They're starting to figure out the spray down Diggity as well, staving him off with some of the utility. But the 3 versus 3 scenario, it literally is the team kill that does not work out for FaZe. 2 versus 2, time is ticking away, and they just cannot get into that retake. Now, last round of the regulation phase, and it's a bit of a discussion moment for both teams. Provided a lifeline are Pain too. They'll actually have the weaponry to back it up this time, not just the pistols that they were forced onto for the previous 2 rounds.
Yeah, that was the round where they should have gotten it done. That was it on a silver platter for FaZe. Pain kind of mismanaged their economy and allowed themselves to get broken in a very awkward position, but they have been given a little bit of a sliver of hope by FaZe here. Door's been left ajar. So now we'll see whether or not they can actually push their way all the way into this overtime and potentially cause even more of a ruckus in this series, or if we get another 13-11.
Well, let's see what the openers do have in store for us. An AWP duel won by either side would be pretty good, you would assume, but Carrigan sneaking deep into mid. We haven't seen this just yet. What we have seen, though, is a mid duel lost.
That's nice by Frozen, though. Good refrag. Keeps a hold of the banana line. So a bit split here is Pain, but you get the sense that they're going to work their way over toward A. So Rain wisely just going to work his way out of carpets on a pretty good timing, frankly, and just find himself in a bit of a safer position. Rotates coming through as well. Obviously, the longer this takes for Pain to set themselves up for the A take, the worse it's going to be, because you're going to have more members over on A from FaZe. That banana control is providing a lot of information for FaZe at the moment. And so they're hedging their bets over toward A, which looks to be the correct decision at the moment. NQZ waiting for any potential push out through that banana smoke. It's not going to happen. And what is the timing here that Pain are waiting for? Maybe it's that with NQZ now going down, Brokey feeling comfortable, no one's moving on the A-bomb site. Pain are going to try and bust their way out of the balcony, and that's not going to happen. A waterfall is not going to be good enough to beat a team like FaZe, and that is 13-11 on map number 2 to join the 13-11 we had on map number 1. Anubis and Inferno both going the way of FaZe, and that is a 2-0 today. So you can say job done, Komodo, but I don't know if it was job done cleanly.
I mean, you look at the history